This is a triple EV accident, a Tesla, two Chinese EVs. The Chinese Communist combustible products continue to strike. Yet this video is hating on Chinese-made electric vehicles for a good reason, of course. I want to expose them. They're built to be broken, or built to break.
电车是电车，哎呦，
是电车，
那是新能源。
哦，要着，哎呦妈呀！哎呦，着！真着了，真着了，真着了！哎呦我去！不，走，离远点，离远点。
你怎么追尾了？干啥？你这，你这一车货都烧掉了。
This is just few of the videos showcasing this. This BYD car started to smoke. Now it's an EV.
断电呀，干什么呀？
But this comment is gold. This car also runs on gasoline. Lol, get it? Because, you know, it's an EV. It's not supposed to be running on combustible gasoline. That's why it's smoking. So the guys... Anyways, the point is, it's funny, but also sad because this is an EV graveyard. The video was from last year. Now, there's many of these videos out there, some of which I've shown you. And it's fields, overgrown, fields full of these cars. Now, you might think these maybe are cars from the 90s or maybe a decade ago, but no, these are just from a few years ago. EVs that run a range of 400 to 500 kilometers per charge, they're discarded here for a very simple reason. The Chinese Communist Party is using electric cars as a way to push for this global manufacturing dominance in newer, or you could say in emerging or have already kind of established fields. And of course, electric cars is one of them. And so in order to push the so-called high production, high sales in those numbers, they overproduce, and in turn they quickly, and this obviously bad for the environment to leave the cars here, but it's caused a so-called generational replacement every 2 to 3 years, and these cars are just left there. And obviously in China, BYD is selling like hotcake and everybody seems to want to buy one. There's still a lot of issues with how Chinese EVs are when it comes to quality, when it comes to craftsmanship, and of course when it comes to even the technology and the software involved. And while they're trying to be Tesla, they are not on the same level.
这是华为呢，这一个小广告，这个小广告把这里给撕掉了，看到没有？把油漆都给撕掉了。
And that's just simply quality issues here. When he posted this onto his page, the page was labeled to be distributing pornographic content, and you can clearly see that he's not doing that. And this is when internet users say the government has intervened. Software? Well, this Li Auto car clearly has a brain of its own.
看，电尾是不是兄弟们很牛逼？这个现车我们家只有这么一台啊。理想同学，开门。理想同学，打开后备箱。理想同学，打开后备箱。Hello， 理想同学，啊！理想同学，打开后备箱好吗？理想同学，我日你的温上，理想同学，你家吗？理想，你坐你的车，你坐你家。摄影师，开门，老子打不开了，摄影师，你耳朵，摄影师，老子叫不得，救命啊！摄影师，你听得到吗？摄影师，理想同学，你长，
我在外面开了8天才开开。
不要买，兄弟们，买老子们家路虎。
In this BYD car live stream, they were showcasing the Sky Eye or Heaven's Eye technology, and through an app you can control to self-park the car automatically, but it of course backfired.
车辆在这儿，你看他会怎么做？万一碰了咋办？碰了正好给你们避雷了。停车。
and it seems to have hit another car in the parking lot. Internet users are making fun of this, saying, is the sky eye blind? Or is the sky eye god taking a break so it's normal to hit something when it does? Or sky god descends on earth, no car seen. Or this one, sky god's eye wasn't open at the time? And this is the HEMA Auto R7 Jujie, and you can get a celebrity endorsement, but you can't seem to cross the road. At least the chicken can, but we just don't know why. And here, maybe if workers were paid on time, quality issues wouldn't be such a big problem. This is a BYD worker protest. They showed up at the office in Zhengzhou City, Henan Province, at a BYD Phase 6 project. And because the department was owing them wages, the workers went to protest to demand that they be paid on time. Now, for a company that's apparently outselling Tesla and dominating global EV spheres, they can't seem to pay their workers on time. Yet, you go see a Tesla factory worker, they even got stock options. So that's a huge distinction between how these two companies work and treat their workers. Chinese EVs, they're so focused on the facade and not enough on the substance. This story is becoming a stark reality, but seems obviously it's tragedy involved, but it seems to be something that is quite unique in China. Think about the question, what if the forced adoption of EVs turned to this? On May 24th, in Guangxi province, a new energy car, basically an EV, it caught on fire in the parking lot, and because of the fire, surrounding smaller cars were also burned and started to smoke. And the fire trucks arrived, but because the community had no available fire hydrants, apparently the water wasn't supplied there, they had to wait for a fire truck, obviously delaying the rescue, and people were trapped in the higher floors, they couldn't get out. So this problem is obviously a multifaceted issue. We have, the poor management, the tofu drag aspect, why wasn't there water? But also you have to think about this almost a forced adoption in China of embracing EVs, right? Everybody wants to drive an EV. And problems like this, with their poor quality, with their combustible products, become something that's extremely dangerous. It's a ticking time bomb. Look, I'm not against EV cars. In fact, I think they're fantastic. What I am against is using a terrible product to market a global campaign, to push an agenda that's clearly, at this point, we should all recognize as adversarial to that of the Western world onto this global stage, and then people are loving it. The fact that they have the source of this problem they're unwilling to address, masked it under this global propaganda campaign. It's almost like there's this psyop to brainwash people into thinking, oh yeah, we have to embrace this. They've done this with the domestic audience, and in China, you're not supposed to talk about how EV cars are bad, because that's tainting the image of China. And then they're trying to export this product to the Western world in hopes to dominate their markets, in hopes to push obviously China-made products as the future. Now, I'm not denying that some Chinese products are pretty good, but that's not the core issue here. It's that we're willing to give up national security in hopes in exchange for the so-called technological advancement. But we have to understand behind that, on the other side, is a totalitarian regime that clearly has a bigger agenda than just pushing cars. Which actually brings me to the point, I want to introduce you to this documentary that recently premiered on Ganjin World Plus. It's called EV, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, starring Larry Elder, who investigates through, this. Obviously, California is a state that has been very forward in pushing for renewable energy vehicles. Again, this focus on clean energy, right? Great intentions co-opted by the CCP to be used against us. But he goes all over America to investigate the state of electric cars. And in it, my favorite aspect is actually how national security and the CCP have a big role to play in this global push for the EVs. Much like, with environmental issues. China is the #1 polluter in the world, yet they're acting like they're environmentally responsible. So the irony there, right? So this documentary really explores a lot of the key aspects that we don't really talk about. Another big issue is how they're exploiting the child labor and slave labor in Africa to mine the rare earth minerals needed to create the batteries for electric cars. And China obviously is doing a lot in Africa with their Belt and Road Initiative, with companies going there. I call it a modern day colonialism, which they essentially go there and they exploit the local population so that they can mine these rare earths, which obviously is very dangerous. I even did a video, I think my first video on the channel is about this. So check out the link in the description and or in the comments, use the code David to sign up, get your first month of Ganjin World Plus for just $1, and definitely check out this documentary. It's a very good educational video to show you exactly what's going on in the world of EVs. If we are embracing this new age of technology, we have to know the distinction between owning it ourselves and versus owning it by the CCP. One wants to have it so that people can fairly compete. The other wants to destroy in the process of creating a global dominance. Okay, let's continue. On May 2nd in Anhui province, the man said that he had only had this Ito M9 vehicle for a few months. And then while he was driving on a road one day, the vehicle suddenly lost power and stopped in the middle of the road. The video has since been deleted.
突然断电，断电之后呢，它现在是连双闪都打不开了哈，你看一下哈，双闪全车突然断电，你看，这就是文件 M9。
On May 9th in Guangdong province, this man said that when he was driving the Ito M7 on the highway, stepped on the accelerator but couldn't drive because it had lost power. He had to push the car to the side of the road. He said he was very scared. And that video has also been deleted. This is now May 10th in Sichuan province. The owner reported that his Li Auto L6 would make a da-da-da sound while he's driving. Listen to it.
啥声那个？后边被小吗？
咋活了？
胎压对了吗？这是啥？
And this happens while it's above the speed of 60 kilometers per hour. And this is May 8th in Guangdong. The BYD car, the steering wheel, you hear it's clucking and it's making all sorts of weird sounds. Some people though say, oh, this is an old BYD model. It definitely will have problems. I'll give you something more recent. This is a BYD CL06. Now, I'm not sure if this is the hybrid or the full EV version, but there's steering wheel problems here too. The owner had changed the steering wheel rod and 2 months later, problem again. The problem is that they use companies like this, the CCP that is, as national treasures, and they're fully supportive for their initiatives to push this out. Like I just mentioned earlier, if you don't support this as a domestic person in China, then you're seen as a traitor. You're not putting up with the domestic products. The famous line that people always say is that, oh, it's hard enough to be a domestic brand. You have to just deal with it. Which is very frustrating as a consumer if you run into one with a problem. And combine this with the fact that BYD is notoriously known to not provide after-sales service in the fact that once you buy the car, they really stop caring about you. And so any issue that normally in the West will qualify for lemon law or for a recall, in China you're told to deal with it. This is a BYD new CL05 hybrid high-end package, and of course 3 days later, that system is already not functioning. Like I always say, it's one thing to try to be Tesla, it's another thing to say that I am Tesla when you don't have the substance to back it up. February 15th, this is in northern China, a BYD owner said that within the 40 days he bought the car had various problems. The previous Toyota he had driven for 12 years was problem-free for the first 100,000 kilometers. It had never been repaired except for maintenance, and there was a queue at the BYD vehicle dealership to get repairs and after-sales services.
看到没有？这是今天在这排号的车啊。我现在前面大概还有20多辆到30辆，然后这里边全是啊，这个并不是他们不工作啊，看老鼻子车了，全都是各种问题。
So Chinese vehicles are built on censorship and lower craftsmanship, but a high ratio of propaganda. And if you think this is going to be the future of EVs, I definitely don't want to be in that world, because I want to be in a world where cars are built to last and quality is up to par with what they say. And even if you have problems, at least there's transparency involved in dealing with those problems. Yet the CCP has done exactly the opposite. They've weaponized EVs like they have done in the past with the 4Gs, the 5Gs, Huawei phones to iPhones, etc. So it's them trying the same formula once more, but moving to a different field. All they need is a temporary facade. That's why they're building things to break. And thanks so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like, comment below your thoughts on the EV topic, as well as anything else that you want to share or talk about. And also subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, bye-bye.